Do you have a homeschooling student who has expressed interest in playing sports at the collegiate level? Today, I wanted to talk to you about some of the requirements for homeschooling students looking to play at NCAA schools. Hey guys, and welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. My name's Abby, and I'm a homeschooling mom of two high schoolers. And both of them love to golf. They both have been competitive golfers for many years and would both like to play golf at the college level. My oldest is a sophomore, so this summer will kind of be an important year for her. You know, colleges will really be starting to track her progress and how she's doing at tournaments and things like that. And she knows for sure she really wants to play golf in college. So we've been talking with her coach about things that we need to get around and have ready. And we've also been doing a lot of research on what NCAA rules are for homeschooling families. It is a bit different than if your student goes to a traditional public or private school. So today I wanted to take you through some of the things that we have found out about the process of being eligible to play at an NCAA school. So one of the first things you can do with your student is get online with them and help them set up a profile page at the NCAA Eligibility Center. It's just eligibilitycenter.org, and I will link that down below for you. Now, there's a couple of options once you get to kind of their main landing page. If your student's still in middle school, or maybe they just want to keep up to date on, the most current NCAA information, you can do a free profile page. And we started off with that. We just put in my daughter's information, our homeschool information, got on the email list, and they have been sending us emails and updates along the way. However, if your student is seriously considering playing for an NCAA Division I or II school, they need to go one step further, and they need to fill out the Academic and Amateurism Certification Account. And I'm looking down because I was going to forget a word if I didn't. Now, there is a cost associated with that. It's like $100, but they do have an option for some financial help if you can't pay that fee due to your financial situation. But that is required if they want to play for a Division I or Division II school. So it's just some additional information that needs to be done. So that's the first thing that you can do with your student. Now, they recommend on the website that you do this before they start their freshman year, but you can sign up for it at any time. We didn't sign up for it until this year, and she's a sophomore, and I don't feel like that hurt us at all. Mostly because we just didn't know about it until this year. But again, you can sign up for that at any time and get the ball rolling on that process. So for homeschooling students, the Eligibility Center does require us to send in certain pieces of information to them in order for them to approve your student to play for an NCAA Division I or Division II school. All of these documents are required. If any of them are missing or any of them are wrong, they're going to tell you your profile won't be completed. The student won't be marked as eligible. So you do need to make sure that you complete all of these tasks. Now, I will tell you that there is a really great workbook you can download. It's free on that NCAA eligibility site. It's about 33 pages long. It includes all of the documents that you need in a PDF format that's fillable. So it's really nice. You can download it to your computer, fill it in, and save it. Now, they recommend that once you have all of your documents together, you email it to them so that way you can have an electronic way of, showing that it was sent and keeping track of it. They receive it faster and you can get a response faster, but you can use good old-fashioned snail mail if that is your preference. So the first big thing that is required is a transcript. So yes, you do have to create a transcript for your student. Now, if you have no idea how to get started with a transcript, I will go ahead and I will link my transcript video down below for you. I take you through all of the things that we include in ours, how I put it together, and suggestions on everything from including the grades to course descriptions and things like that. So be sure to check out the video down below if you are starting from scratch and unsure how to get a transcript going for your student. But you will need to create one for the purposes of this eligibility application. Now, if your student takes any college courses or dual enrollment courses, you will want to get a transcript from those colleges or universities as well. Plus, you want to include that course on the transcript you create, just indicating that it was a college level course that they took. Because a lot of times, of course, we do mark that as a high school credit, plus they're earning college credit at the same time. So your transcript needs to have a couple of things on there. First of all, it does have to show when they started ninth grade. So whenever it is that you kind of determined that they were a ninth grader. All of the courses need to be listed along with a course title and the grade that they achieved. You need to put how many credits they earned for each course. Now you can choose if you're going to count them as quarter credits, half credits, 3/4 credits, 1 credit, or even if you're doing like trimesters. So it's like a third of a third or 2/3 credit, which I did trimesters in high school. That was crazy. But you can't count any course for more than 1 credit. So, if you normally count a course as 2 credits, depending on your state, you do need to readjust it so it's no more than 1. You also need to have a grading scale on the transcript. Now, they give some examples on what they consider to be an okay way of doing a grading scale. And we'll see if I can get this. So this is printed right from their website here. So you can see, you can list, an A and then write what it is, or you can create the graph like over here showing what the grading scale is. Now, I have always used a consistent grading scale with my kids' high school classes, even ones that they took in middle school. We created a grading scale. We decided that was the one we were going to use, and we have not changed it. So if you have been following that, for your own grading purposes in your homeschool, it is just a great way to simplify this because all of your grades are, of course, graded on the same scale. Now, if you have not done grading in your homeschool, you are going to have to figure out how it is you're going to assign a grade for your courses. And again, you're going to have to place a grading scale on the transcript. So it is a good idea to kind of start thinking about that before your student starts doing high school courses in your homeschool. If you are several years into high school and you haven't done that, yes, it's going to be a little bit of extra work for you because you're going to have to go back and kind of create these things. So best to get started like that with a grading scale that's consistent right from the get-go. You also need to show on your transcript which year each course was taken. You can put courses on there that were taken prior to 9th grade. My kids both in 8th grade took several high school level courses. You just have to indicate that those were taken as an 8th grader or what academic year they were taken. So you will need to list each academic year, freshman year, 2020, 2021, and so on and so forth on there. Their graduation date or their anticipated graduation date will need to be on the transcript. When you're initially sending this stuff in, your students have not graduated yet in most cases, so you'll put an expected graduation date. And then at the end of their senior year, you are going to resubmit the transcript with final grades and with their actual graduation date. Now, if you have a student who's in the middle of taking courses, maybe they're a senior and they don't have a grade for all their classes yet because they're still taking it, you will just put that that's in progress. And again, at the end of this senior year, when you resubmit it, you'll have final grades on there as well. Students' full name, first and last name, address, things like that need to be included. And then you as the school administrator or whichever parent is the school administrator needs to physically sign the transcript. This here is just an example transcript that they had on their website. So this is in the homeschool packet. So, student information and school information. And then you can see here that they've got the grades or like the academic year things were taken, a course title, and the grade, credits earned, and then over here is the grading scale. So this is kind of a great little template you can use that's right in that student workbook if you're unsure how to get started. The only reason they have things highlighted on here is to remind you that those are things that are required on the transcript, just to highlight those. So the next thing that you need to include in your eligibility packet is the administrator and accordance statement. So again, this is on their website as a fillable PDF. So when you download it, you'll see most of these spots on here will be boxes that you can fill in. So when you save it or print it out, it is all nice and neat. And then you will just, again, physically sign it at the bottom. So things that it includes on here is your student's name, their NCAA ID, which they'll get when they create their profile, your check marking things like, did I teach the courses? I evaluated the schoolwork. I awarded grades and credits. You're going to put your name and contact information and your relationship to the student. Now, there is information down here. If you are in a state that does the umbrella programs, that will be on there as well. And then you are affirming that you did follow all of the homeschooling laws in your state, and then what years that they homeschooled. So basically filling out saying, yes, we did homeschool. Yes, we did it according to the laws of our state. here's my signature. Probably the part of this packet that will take you the longest is doing the core course worksheets. Now, these are, again, required. They have to be done on the forms, the form template that is in the homeschool student packet. You can't create your own. You have to use these. You do, again, have to physically sign each and every one. So you're going to have to print it out once you fill it, sign it, and then either scan it back in. You can take a photo of it, but you do need to physically sign it and then scan it as an attachment in the email. Now, a core course worksheet isn't required for every single class, but it is required for every course in one of the following categories: English, math, science, social science, world language, comparative religion, or philosophy. If you do a dual enrollment college class, you do not require a core course worksheet for those classes. You also don't need to include it for fine arts classes or for things like PE, health class, things like that. So just for the core classes, which ends up being quite a bit when you think about it, because most of our kids are doing at least English, science, math, and probably some sort of history class every single year. And you have to have a separate core course worksheet for each one. So you could potentially have dozens of pages to fill out here. So the core course worksheet, just like all the others, is a PDF that has the boxes that you'll be able to type into. And I'll just kind of show you the pages here. And I'll talk a little bit about what's on them. So things that it includes for a core course. You do have to give your course a name. It can be simple: Algebra 1, Biology, US History. Give it some sort of a name. That name should match what is on your transcript for that course. You also have to list the year or the grade that it was taken, which subject area it is. Teacher of record. So were you the teacher? Did they take it at a co-op? Who was the teacher of the course? Prerequisites. Was there something they needed to have beforehand? So for example, for geometry, my kids took Algebra 1 first. So Algebra 1 was a prerequisite for geometry. Algebra 1 and geometry were prerequisites for Algebra 2, and so on. If they took, let's say they did biology and then later on they decided to take an advanced biology. So biology would be your prerequisite for that. Text use. So you need to put down your curriculum that you used for this. So I would just write down the entire title of your textbook and then, put the curriculum provider on there. Now, if you did a course that maybe was a little bit like non-traditional, like for example, my son is doing a geography and cultures course from Guest Hollow. So there is no physical textbook for that. There is an online textbook for it, and then there are tons and tons of living books. So I'm not going to list all 25 odd living books that we are using for the course. I'm going to put the name of the course and that it's the Guest Hollow student textbook kind of thing. So I'll list it out that way for that one. So, but you do need to provide, which was used, who is the curriculum provider, designer, and then you need a course description. So if you watched my video on the transcripts, and I have another video on how I do grading because I put this in here, and I'll link that one down below too. So I use a free Excel grade book that allows me to put in a course description. And I have been doing this, again, from the get-go. I will type in what I want the kind of the formal course description to be. If you are struggling with figuring out a course description, I would look at local high schools. You go to their websites. You can download, for a lot of them, you can download for free their course books, which will list, what the classes are the students are taking. And it gives you, guess what? A course description. A lot of curriculum providers too, if you look in the front of the textbook, it will also give you a course description, and you can just copy and paste that in there. There's nothing wrong with that. Just use that actual course description. So don't let it stress you out, the idea that you have to do a course description. There's different ways of finding out, wording and things like that for it, but it's just saying what the course is. There is a section too on course content, goals, and an outline. So rough things that were covered. Again, you don't have to go into a whole bunch of detail, but what were kind of the main points and topics that were covered? What kind of assessment was used? So, were you using quizzes, tests formal papers, research projects. How is it that you determined a grade for that class? Who designed the assessments? So if you did the tests provided by the curriculum provider, then that's who developed them. If you wrote your own, that would be you. You know, basically who wrote the tests or quizzes, and then who did the grading, and what was the grade based on? Okay, so not a grading scale. What it's looking for is how did you determine their grade? Again, I'll give you an example here. Chemistry. My daughter's doing chemistry this year. So a certain portion of her grade, a certain percentage of her grade comes from her lab work and her lab reports. Another percentage of her grade comes from her tests. And then another portion comes from her student workbook and her filling that out and doing the comprehension questions. So I would put, and I'm just going to throw numbers out here, 20% lab activities and lab reports, 50% tests, 30% student workbook questions. So that is how I determined her grade. Now, again, if you find yourself kind of struggling to figure out how you want to fill out these different pages, there is a whole section of their student workbook that takes you through a whole bunch of examples on how to do the outlines and the course descriptions, kind of giving you an idea of what it is they're looking for. And they use actual courses as examples. Like they have one for pre-calculus with trig, they have one for biology, they have one for an English course, one for geography, philosophy. So it does give you an idea on how you might fill this out for different types of courses. And again, you know, look back at your curriculum, your textbooks and things like that. If you have teacher guides, a lot of this information you can find in those textbooks and teacher guides, and then you're just putting it into here, explaining what it is you did. The next thing that we have to include is proof of graduation. Now, obviously, if you're initially submitting this, maybe at the start of a senior year, you're not going to have that yet, but you will need to provide that before your student is technically eligible to play at the school. So you can do a diploma. Maybe you're getting one printed for your student, so you can have a copy of the diploma. Your transcript will be fine as well, but you have to make sure that the date of graduation is included on there. You have to have month, date, year. Or if their student does like a state equivalency test, like to get their GED, that would work as well. They did note on here that if you are in New York, Hawaii, or Florida, there are some exemptions or some slight differences for those three states. There is like a little spot you can click on the website that will take you to the information pertaining to those states. I didn't read that stuff because I don't live in any of those states. Thank goodness Indiana is just a little simple for the purposes of this. But that is something that you do need to include. Then you also need to include any testing scores, SAT, ACT. Now, when you take SAT and ACT, there's actually a spot on there where you can put in a code and it will be sent directly from the testing provider to NCAA Eligibility. So you just follow those instructions. It gives you the code on the NCAA Eligibility site as a part of that student packet, telling you what code to put in when your student takes those tests, so that information is sent directly to them. Now, once you've gotten all of these documents ready and you've signed them and scanned them in, there is also a cover sheet that is included in the packet that you will want to have on top of that. So what I would recommend is fill out as much of this in the PDF form as you can. Again, they have fillable boxes. Print it off, sign what you need to sign, and then get it all stacked together, scan it all in at once. If you have a scanner at home, you can scan it that way. If you don't, you could take it to like an Office Depot or a Staples, have them scan it in and create it into a PDF. That way you have it all together. Definitely make sure that you save copies on your home computer of the version that you've scanned and signed. I would also save the originals in case you need to go back and do any kind of editing or change something up, or things like with like the transcripts where you're going to need to update it with their grades for their senior year or their graduation dates and things like that. And then you'll send it in. So they will only look at this once they've received all of the information that they need from you, or if your student has been if they're evaluated because a school has requested it. So, you know, if your student's being scouted by a school and they want to know that they're eligible and they request that check from the NCAA, then they'll start looking at that. Once it's all in, they'll look at it and then let you know if your student is eligible or if there's any information that they need. They do reserve the right to come asking you for additional information if that is needed in order for them to kind of completely determine if your student is eligible to play. So hopefully this gives you a little more of an idea on some of the things you would need to do for a student looking to play NCAA Division I or II sports in college. It's definitely a little bit of work on our end as the parent, but our student athletes are putting in a lot of time and effort and hours of practice in order to be able to play at that collegiate level. And so I think the least we can do is fill out some papers for them to make sure that they are eligible to be able to do so. Again, I will link the website down below, the Eligibility Center, so that way if you would like to take a look at things, you can. You can download that parent packet or that homeschool student packet and start looking through those different forms. I would highly recommend, if your student is even remotely considering playing a college level sport, to at least get the free profile set up for them. Again, it gets you on an email list. You can get updated information sent to you. It's been really nice because each month they sent my daughter kind of like a, hey, you should be looking at doing this now checklist. So that's been really helpful. It also has been nice because I can start to go in and fill out things like these core course worksheets as we go along. The last thing I want to do is, the beginning of her senior year, be scrambling to get all of them done and trying to remember what it is we did way back in freshman year and sophomore year. So if you can kind of work on it along the way, that's fantastic. And then you don't have to worry about, getting it all done at once near the end. If we find out any more updated information going forward, I will be sure to share it with you guys in upcoming videos. Like I said, this is my daughter's sophomore year, so this summer is going to be a big year for her with her golfing, and we're just kind of really excited to, start looking at schools and hopefully next year be doing some tours of some different places and figuring out where it is she wants to go from here. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can find out when I post new homeschooling and mom life content. Have a good one, everybody. See you in the next video.